regular attendance has not recovered from the pandemic. In Term 2, 2022, only about 40% of students nationally attended school regularly, more than 90% of the term, rising to 47% in 2023 and still short of pre-2020 levels. The pandemic disrupted the attendance norm, the social expectation that school is where you go every day, and it has not recovered. A school cannot improve achievement outcomes for students who are not there. The attendance crisis is now the primary educational emergency in Auckland, and it requires a direct response rather than the assumption that resourcing improvements will automatically improve attendance. The funding formula provides more per pupil to high-need schools than to low-need schools, but not enough more. The additional cost of educating a child with multiple disadvantages, learning difficulties, English as a second language, housing instability, health issues, is substantially above the decile-based adjustment provided. The result is that high-deprivation schools are perpetually under-resourced relative to what their students need, regardless of the teacher's effort and skill. A Pacific child in South Auckland, who does not attend quality ECE enters primary school behind their NZ European peers in language, numeracy, and social-emotional skills. That gap, not the gap created by primary school, is the primary driver of the achievement disparity that persists to NC. Closing the achievement gap at secondary school without addressing the ECE gap is treating a symptom. The highest return intervention is also the earliest one. Participation statistics undercount the problem because they treat all ECE as equivalent. A child in a licensed centre with high teacher turnover and thin qualified teacher ratios is not receiving the same educational input as a child in a stable, well-staffed centre. The quality gradient between high and low deprivation Auckland ECE is the mechanism by which attending ECE in a low-income area provides less developmental benefit than attending ECE in an affluent suburb. The school-to-work transition is where educational disadvantage converts to labour market disadvantage. A young Maori man from South Auckland who leaves school at 17 without NC Level 2 and without a vocational pathway is in a structurally dangerous position, too under-credentialed for most employment, without the networks to access jobs filled informally, and without the skills or capital to be self-employed. The NEET rate at 18-20 is the educational outcome that most directly predicts the long-run inequality outcomes documented elsewhere in this graph. The tension between vocational pathway investment and academic excellence focus is partly false. Both are needed, but they address different parts of the distribution. University access programs help the Maori and Pacific students who attain NC Level 2 but do not proceed to university. Vocational pathways help those who do not reach that threshold, a system that invests only in the upper part of the distribution, while the lower part falls into NEET status, is not addressing the problem. Auckland tertiary institutions enroll large numbers of Maori and Pacific students. The problem is not enrollment but completion. A student who enrolls, studies for 2 years and withdraws for financial reasons has no qualification, carries student debt, and is in a worse labour market position than if they had taken a shorter vocational qualification. The completion gap is the measure that matters, and it points squarely at Auckland's housing cost as the mechanism. Auckland's construction sector is running below capacity partly because of skilled worker shortages. Its hospitals and aged care facilities are staffing from the Philippines and India because domestic training pipelines are insufficient. Fixing this mismatch is partly an information problem. Students do not see wage premiums in shortage fields. Partly an affordability problem. Shortage field programs in health and engineering are expensive, and partly an ITP capacity problem. All three have addressable policy interventions.